Hi, everybody. This is Patricia Cori coming to you live from the Azores Islands with a moment of Zen. And the topic today is subliminal seduction. So in my yesterday's video, I was playful, as I tend to be, but today I'm going to be serious. So what sparks this brief interlude is a conversation that's on a thread that I ran regarding fashion and androgyny. And somebody said, oh, Patricia, I welcome disagreement. So, I have no problem with somebody questioning what I have to say. I welcome it, in fact, as long as it's not a personal attack. So my point was that a lot of the models, more and more of the models on the runways are men. And I have a problem with that. And more of the men's fashion is women's clothes. So my point here is not, the gender issue remains one that we are all dancing around, trying not to be politically incorrect or trying not to hurt anyone or interfere with anyone's process, yada, yada. But it's my process when subliminal information is being shoved on my consciousness and ours through subliminal messages. So the conversation was such that the woman who was questioning what I wrote said, let's not get carried away here, Patricia. These are women. No, actually, they're not women. They're men dressed up like women, made up like women, wearing women's jewelries, etc. And my point again is that I don't want subliminal images imposed on my consciousness. Let's take, for example, the chemtrails. How did this come about? We didn't just go from beautiful, clear blue skies to the gummy, guzzy, funky, striped grids that we see today. No, it was subliminal. It was one. It was a few cities, and then another, and then another, and then another, until finally very large numbers of people stopped seeing it, stopped questioning it. It just got subliminally, so there's a word, subliminally overlaid into your experience so that when you look at the sky, you take it as normal. You take as normal that, it's a beautiful sunny day on Monday. On Monday afternoon, there are planes flying gridlocks in the sky with this ooze that doesn't dissipate. And the next day it's raining and gray and funky, and it stays that way for days. This is subliminal. It's not that subliminal, but now the government, what I mean by it's not that subliminal is it's in your face. But the problem is when it's slowly implanted, gentle, bigger, you stop seeing it. And that's subliminal seduction. And I take a break here because so many people are coming in. I want to say hello to everybody. So, I have to go back and look. Okay, hello, sweetheart. Jody Carr Stevens, love you. Hi, Jerry, Boss Emanuelson. Philip, you're always there. Pedro, from Panama, far away. Hello, my dear. Far too long since we've talked. Michael, Stellar, Michelle, thank you all for tuning in. Right, so back to this question of subliminal impositions on human consciousness. It's like political correctness, which of course is my pet peeve. And let me interject here that I inevitably aggravate a lot of people because I refuse to be politically correct, even if it means being attacked. Although I have this wonderful method for the attack, which is this wonderful little number called delete, which I use more and more. Just don't have any time for it. I don't care about it. More and more, I keep telling people, you can disagree all you want. Let's have an intelligent disagreement. Let's have a malleable disagreement where maybe you learn something from the other person's opinion and are willing and capable of saying, you're right. That affects my opinion. but attacking each other, that is just exactly what the power wants us to do. And yeah, I'm not gonna allow it in my life. So I was talking about subliminal seduction. Okay, so it's like the universities, they now have forbidden words. Are you kidding me? So you have to speak English ungrammatically, especially pronouns. Ooh boy, really a big danger zone. Don't even think about using the third person male, the third person pronoun, him or he. For example, a man must keep pace with his dreams, or else he will blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, no. Now you have to say else they. I'm not going to say it. They is a plural pronoun. It has nothing to do with the context. And really, I don't see where a pronoun, a male pronoun, a third person pronoun, means you're gender biased if you use it in a context. This is subliminal seduction, so that your world shrinks smaller and smaller and smaller, and everything gets amalgamated into a brew of no-go zones, no-see zones. Can't talk about androgyny. Oh, no, 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 no. That's not politically correct. Can't talk about gender confusion. That's certainly not politically correct. And, you know, meanwhile, the social human conscious awareness is being squeezed into this box. We were coming out of it. It's, you know, my generation. I mean, I'm obviously a little older than some of you, but we were hippies. I was on the tail end of the hippie movement. We were, you know, the protesters of Vietnam War, back when you could protest without having zapping radar on you. Now I see this allowance, this acceptance under the veil of social engineering, and that's called political correctness. Under this veil, people are accepting complete mutation, even, I mean, racially. You're not allowed to say, you know, the other day I said I was Italian, and somebody wrote to me and said, you know, Patricia, some people could be offended by the fact that you constantly talk about how you're Italian. I was like, excuse me. I'm so Italian. Everything I do is my history, my family, my genes. I'm Italian, proud of it. Not that I'm identifying necessarily with the nation, just with the notion, for God's sakes. And when people come up with this offended number, I sit back and think to myself, how much more are we going to allow the system to control our thoughts, our behaviors, our emotion, our interactions, our dialogues, the way we dress, our gender, our race consciousness? Oh my God, better. And besides, race, you know, being a nation, a nationality is not a race. So that's another discussion for another day. But yeah, I had to come on and say this. Be aware that you're being manipulated by the fashion industry. But do I tell you something you don't know? Probably not if you're listening to me, but I will continue to scream and shout. So I'm watching a video of Armani, who used to be one of my favorite designers, not that I wear designer fashion. And the men are all dressed up as women. The women's fashion show is men. Men walking down the runway, fully made up, wearing jewelry, wearing women's clothes. And that's politically incorrect to even bring it up. But I don't want men pushing that agenda on me. I don't want designers pushing the agenda on me. Whatever happened to the Naomi Campbells and the if you look at old runway images, the models used to walk down the runway smiling and even a bit teasing with their gorgeous dresses on. Now there's this somber, androgynous, miserable, look at this stuff, miserable faces. Clearly men dressed as women and sometimes women dressed as men. And this, my only issue with this, my issue with this, and I hope it's your issue with this, is that we're being subliminally pushed into androgyny pre-AI shifting human race into artificial intelligence, robotized beings. Now that might sound extreme to some of you, but I think some of you get me, and I hope you do, because I call you to awareness on this. Do not allow yourself to be, okay, for example, the chemtrail issue is one. Did you know that now they're going back on to old films, let's say, I think 20 years and beyond, and they're actually gauzing into the footage chemtrails. It's what I read, and sorry, always have hair problems. This is going on in Hollywood because the shocking reality is that if you look at movies let's say 20 years ago, maybe a little bit sooner, a little earlier, there aren't any chemtrails. And so they're making sure that there are. So they're, have they got nothing better to do than to go back to old movies and paint in chemtrails? But you see, that is all part of the subliminal seduction. And speaking of subliminal seduction, oh my God, one of the first books I think I've ever read was a book called Media Sexploitation, Subliminal Seduction. And it was a beautiful expose on how media implanted sexual messages, sexual words, penises, every kind of sexual imagery in their advertising. You've probably seen this. You probably know what I'm talking about. Back in the day when I was teaching workshops and showing people this stuff, they couldn't believe it. And then boom, the subconscious mind is picking it up, but the conscious isn't. And then when I would draw their minds to it, look at the glass again. Look what's in that glass, and then they'd see it. And once they'd see it, they could never unsee it. And that's subliminal messages. So I ask you, okay, so if the subliminal message is the androgynous human being, what does that mean? What's being overlaid into your conscious understanding of who you are, of society, and the children? Now, I have a problem with imposing gender confusion on children, but then I have a problem on a lot of things that's happening to children. And that takes me to the next conversation, which you know I'm screaming about all the time, which is vaccines are good for you. And this war that we're having in the world of people that are imposing that vaccines are good for you. And I ask you the question over and over, if vaccines, the premise of a vaccine is, and bear with me, I know plenty of you know what I'm talking about. The premise is that by taking this virus into your blood system, it builds up antibodies to the virus. Okay, I have a few problems with this. Number one, and that's the campaign, and that's the subliminal. It's not even subliminal anymore. At first it was. Now it's just bold outright. And the Pat Coris of the world are saying, well, hold on a minute. If that's the case, then why do I have to be vaccinated? Why is it being pushed on me that I have to be vaccinated if the people that take the vaccine are protected against me, the healthy person who could potentially possibly get the vaccine? This is another, a huge mental massage that's going on in our society. And meanwhile, every day, people are getting sick and dying. Babies are dying. Sorry, when I start to talk about vaccines, I lose the plot because I'm so aggravated about it and so alarmed that in the hands of a few diabolical individuals whose names don't need to be mentioned, I want to live, and a diabolical force, which is Big Pharma, human beings are being filled with poison, and it's everywhere. And we're getting to the point where it's going to be forced, obligatory. But yeah, let's keep being distracted by the impeachment charade and the gender issue and other things that are politically divisive and confusing and distracting. And man, I'll tell you what, people, do what you can to speak your minds without worrying, without yielding, I suppose is the word I want, to the politically correct or not correct mandate that is a program. And the program is to silence you. What better way to control a population than to have them silence themselves? How much longer will people like me be able to scream and yell and speak our minds and hopefully affect even a minutia of population? Thank you for your thumbs up, Philip and Margarita, and welcome Angela Akai, Brigitte, oh sweetheart, it's so nice to see you. Tanya, Lotus Divina again, thank you for tuning in. So I ponder this, and again, this little transmission here, which I promise to do more of, since I've been so absent with that stupid bronchitis. I'm prompted by little exchanges that are going on my Facebook page, and I put up this question when I saw this ridiculous. I'm finding it ridiculous that women can't. What's the problem here? Why can't we celebrate, first of all, the male design wardrobe? Why does that have to disappear? I don't get it. Why are we being forced to embrace a feminized male clothing, the made-up metro male? Oh, and by the way, one of the reasons is it's big business. Male makeup is a multi-billion-dollar business. So if you think it's just because it's the trend of society, forget it. It's big business mandating a whole new genre of product for a market they didn't tap until the last decade, which is male makeup, male jewelry. Oh, I know I'm gonna get some hate messages for saying that, but it's how I feel. And so hate away. My love for humankind is such that I wave my flag nonstop, and I demand that we be allowed to be who we are, who we want to be. That's great, but not. You want to change your gender? Well, first of all, you better be sure you're not going to change it back, because that's happening a lot. And you know, I don't want to be doing a George Carlin on you, but once you lose your member, baby, it's not coming back. Little humor in a heavy subject. So, you know, I see now, my friend Wesley Jackson posted something that you might want to read about genders changing their mind and coming back. And it's just like, what caused the initial, why is it all of a sudden in a few years, we've got all these people having gender crisis? Is it possible that aside from the people who just biologically feel that they're in the wrong body or the wrong gender, is it just possible that this is being imposed on society by a completely controlling pharmaceutical, which I'm going to get into next. Oh, I can't believe I'm going down this gender road again. Fashion, makeup, industry, surgical, medical industry that is making multi-billion dollars on this issue. And, you know, what about taking hormones, forcing your body to adhere to a chemical alteration of its own biological essence by taking hormones the rest of your life? Well, you start a kid at 5 years old on hormones the rest of their lives. Then you've got the mood medications and the rest of it. So I want to, again, so that we don't have people shooting pies at me, I reiterate, everyone is free to do what they want. Never like in today's society have we had this kind of total freedom. You can walk down the street looking like Godzilla, and that's okay too. But I don't want it inculcated in my mind or in a child's mind, because a fashion industry or a medical industry or surgery, that's medical industry, big pharma, government, whoever wants us to lose our gender identity, wants us to lose our identity of everything. Look at Europe. I've been living in Europe half of my life. And when they imposed the EEC, we started to lose our cultural identity. And that was part of the system. Make it a conglomerate for business. A friend of mine said, in Greek, he said, you know, Patricia, I used to go to the taverna and order 5 drachmas of metaxa. I cannot go now and say 3 euros of metaxa. I can't stand it. And these things, think about these things. And, you know, for those of you who don't live in Europe, although I think it started now with the American dollars too, we have monopoly money. Pink and blue and lavender and pastels, just like monopoly money. We lost the beautiful, the franc, that was art. The liras, big notes like this, and the beautiful drachmas with the Greek history on them. Now we have plastic, literally plastic monopoly money. All of this, all of these aspects are nuance that are part of the subliminal seduction of humankind to remove your identity. I think maybe even to remove our species identity, but right now it's your cultural, your racial identity, and to confuse your gender identification. I mean, talk about getting to the root. And they're after your DNA, baby. Wow. Let me just bring this up too. You know, I'm going to be offering my DNA course. I'm a little bit late on getting that out, but it's coming. And one of the things I take issue with is these companies that are these companies that are inviting you pay for it, to send them your DNA. You get a little swab kit. You pay them, what, 120 bucks, I think it is. And you send them your swab, and then lo and behold, they tell you your genealogy. Well, you know what they're really doing? They're using your DNA. They're using it. They're altering it. They're manufacturing God knows what with it. Please think it through. This is, again, subliminal seduction. Sounds good. Oh, goody. I get to know that I'm 87% Italian. Meanwhile, your essence, your biointelligence, architectural, multidimensional essence is now in a laboratory. Are you thinking? And you pay to provide them this biological essence sample of who you are and who your family is, who your children are. They're using it. So don't be seduced by that either. Don't give away your DNA. All right. Dun, 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 sound starting to sound like I'm on the bandstand. But I hope these thoughts, wow, 25 minutes already. It seems like 5 minutes I've been talking. I hope these thoughts give you something to chew on today. And agree or disagree with me, but do it with dignity and integrity. Because the Greeks had the Parthenon where they had their forums. The Romans did too. For God's sakes, 50 years ago, we did too in modern society. And slowly the walls are closing in. Slowly, 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 we're being silenced. The books are being burned again, you know. And political correctness doesn't allow us to talk about hardly any of the issues that are mutating our social lives, our cultural lives, and our individual lives, right down to the damn DNA. And when you think about, when we talk about mind control, we tend to think about sophisticated CIA technology and beams. No, no, no. Mind control is much more insipid than that. Mind control is subliminal messaging, constantly pushing in, pushing in, pushing in until you stop noticing that things have changed, that the sky isn't blue anymore, that you can't use the third person singular pronoun. If anybody even knows what that is, I don't think they're teaching grammar anymore, so forgive me for sounding like a schoolmarm. For questioning, for not being allowed to say boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I also got somebody said to me, we don't use boys and girls anymore, Patricia. I do. I do. And speaking of boys and girls, I just want to say that this beautiful little emblem, this little dolphin, comes to me from this gorgeous young child, Kylan, in Australia, and his mom, Penny, who are real soul family for me. The connection is particular. I think Kylan and I have, probably Penny too, but definitely Kylan and I have had some time elsewhere together. And I sent him a Syrian seal, and he sent me this gorgeous, he calls me Star Dolphin Queen. How cute is that? And so he sent me this little dolphin, which I adore. Thank you both. I love you both. All right, you guys, that's it for today. I've been 27, almost a half an hour. And now I'm going to go have some coffee, which is my only addiction to date, and get back to writing because it's a rainy day here and I write best when it drizzles. Please think about what I've said. Please look deeper. Please use the right pronoun. Don't be afraid. I refuse to misspeak. Beautiful English, the poetry of it, because the third person singular has a gender bias. Give me a freaking break. And yes, to Jodie Carr-Stevens, I long for the day to see good-looking men, she says, in perfectly tailored suits. Oh, God, I tell you what, there's something so gorgeous about that, about, well, a Cary Grant attire, that elegance. I know a few people who the Italian men, come on, especially my generation of Italian men, they still turn up their collar with their cashmere trench coats and their beautiful suits. And, well, even my friend Bonizoli man, always perfectly, beautifully groomed. That's for you, Lanfranco. Hai visto che ho parlato di te? Even my ex, I call him Brand X, was one of those dressers. And I love it. I love beauty and elegance. And I refuse to be massaged into accepting that men are wearing gold lame boots and posing as women, or not. They're not even posing. It's what it is. It's the androgynous image that's being forced on throughout the fashion industry, so much so that someone took offense with what I said and said, those are women, not men. Yeah, no, they're men. Take another look deeper, look past the subliminal message, because the subliminal message is looky, looky, looky. I'm wearing a makeup, I'm wearing a feminine attire, I'm wearing jewelry, I have my nails done. And it's not necessarily that this is a transgender person or even a cross-dressing or whatever those terms will be. This is just androgyny. So the point that you can't tell the difference between men and women anymore. Well, you know what? I love men and I love women's clothing. Let's start with that. And more important, I resist and renounce subliminal architecture coming down the runway or anywhere else. I resist subliminal implants on my mind, and I will fight to the bitter end. And I hope you will too, because as I posted yesterday, I had this dream. I woke up and the thought in my mind was, I am a sovereign being. No interference allowed. And so I know that there's probably some funky stuff going on in the astral, and my shields are up, and by golly, they are in conscious waking states too. All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening, and I know that this is not the logarithmic moment to be bringing you my messages, but you know what? It's what it is. It's raw, uncut, uncensored Patricia Cori. The only way I know how to be. I hope this message has touched you just a teeny bit. And thank you for listening. Take care.